So I remembered a new old saying, which I don't know that it's Cockney, but that's the sound that I heard it in. It says, "In for a penny, in for a pound." Oh, by the way, the one I said, "You gotta love them." You gotta love them. Somebody thought I was talking about you gotta love solves everything in the world, and you gotta love them is a again I heard as a Cockney thing. It might be more universal than that. You gotta love them means that it's much more the thing that they're hopeless, but you still gotta love them. You gotta love them like you gotta love all of mankind after an incident of such catatonic hopelessness, like the Labour Party of England, let's say, and you say patronizingly, well, you gotta love them, in for a penny, in for a pound. So I was listening to this discussion this morning about immigration and how, in fact, immigration has been sorely resented and proscribed by both parties, just differently. And I think, in a sense, as with the Democrats generally, is that there's a slight sense of guilt. It doesn't change the fact that they don't like immigrants. They don't like the idea of immigrants. They don't feel that, and I'm not sure whether they do individually, but this is the party line, that immigrants need to be turned around and sent back over the border. The border, which, by the way, the border with Mexico used to be very different. So, in a sense, Texas is Mexico, whatever you want to, I don't really care. Because my honest feelings about this is I don't have a guilty conscience about immigration and I don't, because I don't believe in it. And I think, and then later on there was a discussion on Facebook, a rather facile one, unfortunately, but a discussion nonetheless about what we should do about immigration. And I thought, you sons of the colonials have a hard time speaking about immigration, because when you illegally migrated to this continent, your behavior was appalling to the people already there. So maybe you have some memory, some generational guilt, and you are projecting onto these various people with their tattoos. You're presuming that they're gang members, rather like the conquistadors must have appeared to the Cherokee or the Asolo or whatever tribes they encountered down there, the Seminoles. So that's my context of it. Because, again, without being tedious, I don't feel any of those things that apparently a lot of other people feel. I don't feel fear of the other. I might, if I lived in Los Angeles and was encountering Latinx gangs all the time, but as with other gang entities, it's a complicated business, and I don't find myself personally afraid. Anyway, the point really of this exercise, today's thought, is that most interesting thing. If your culture does not allow a path or several paths to be taken and arrive at a state of individuation, look it up. If this arrival is unknown and obviously therefore unvalued, you will be you, O Western civilization. This is not individualization. It's not individuality or individualism. It is individuation. To be really short, it's a realization on the self, an arrival after a journey, or maybe even a quest. Something occurs to you. And Carl Jung, I'm sure, had things to say about this. I'm not sure that he did, because I think it's quite mysterious. But we encounter individuated people very rarely in our culture. It's not a value of our culture. It's closer to the Buddhist notion of enlightenment or whatever that is. Not to say that they necessarily get there and that Buddhist societies are any less bloodthirsty and jealous and raging and materialistic than ours. Apparently they are, but at least they have a notion that that's what you're doing. That quest, that search for self, has been co-opted in my civilization by you know who, and all the tenets and the theories that attend it. So when I hear people talk about whatever problem there is currently in the world, wage inequality, poverty, environmental problems, I am aware that they are basing their solutions, potential solutions to all these problems, on a kind of human being who is absolutely unindividuated. So they're the kinds of people who will be fearful of the other, who will be craving of status and wealth, and will be fearful of entering. I was thinking about that thing today, the thing about work. What do we hate about work? Karl Marx writes about the drudgery of the proletariat work. I don't know what that is. I do know that I think a lot of people are very uncomfortable around other people, and most work involves being around other people. And the irony is, contrary to what a brother of mine in London sent to me, he sent me this rather tacky post or podcast of an AI voice trotting out Jung's theory of individuation, or his explanation of individuation. And they got it all wrong because they thought it meant that you're a loner. In fact, what an individuated person does, having had this discovery after a journey, a walkabout, they come and they find themselves it's very much easier for them to enjoy other people, to not project onto other people the various threats. So you won't be jealous of other people or envious of their wealth or their cars or their wives or any of those kinds of things, because you have found another center of value. And so this is my thing. You will insist on Bible study in one quarter and other books in other quarters. In other words, you will insist that children be educated, filled with knowledge, not of themselves. Parenthetically, if you insist their relationship to God is not a relationship to themselves, you will be you. There will be no change. There will be no democracy, because there will be no choice. Trump and the Republicans are terrible to me in my heart subjectively. The Democrats, unfortunately, are no different. There's no solution, no opposition. It was simply a team that I was a substitute player on for a long time. The root is the same. They both are guarantors of rights to property and little else. They both, in other words, they both seek to promote and protect the individual. And in my world, the individual is in fact a child, and that's an insult to children. The individuated person doesn't need to express and have trinkets to express their individuality. They don't need to wear certain clothes. They don't need to write certain songs. It's a very different breed. And like I say, we don't have them. And we may have seen them. We may have encountered them. You may see it if you're particularly sensitive and intuitive, you will see it in a photograph. You will see it in a work of art. Imagining that pre-agricultural revolution, the hunter-gatherer communities were all full of Donald Trumps and Elon Musks or Chuck Schumers and Nancy Pelosi's who were snide and accumulating and aspirational is way off the mark. It's way off the mark. To be a socialist, for instance, I'm not a socialist. I don't even know what that means, what essentially it means, but I know what it means to me. And it means if I have enough, I don't need anything more. Right? I don't need the trappings. I don't need all that sort of stuff. And I certainly don't need to feel that I'm being terribly successful because I'm richer. As the new advertising meme is, be richer than your friends. I can't think of a more pathetic admission of childishness. And again, it's something else. It's like to say we behave like animals is actually a compliment. To say we behave like children is actually a compliment. So I'm at a loss for words to describe what this retarded, halted, interruptus adolescent state is that we call American society. It's just terrible. An example was, yes, neither of yous can read. Yeah, the book, but they both seek in the Bible often or seek in other books. And neither of you can actually read. All you're experiencing is being retold. An example for you, I was listening to a call-in radio show in Vermont about J.K. Rowling and Harry Potter. A youngish man, younger than I, said tearfully that J.K. Rowling had broken his heart because of her disruptive arguments on little short tweets on that stupid platform about trans rights and stuff like that. And so now she's a pariah and maybe deserved. I've never met her. But this kid this young chap calls it, 30-something, he said tearfully that she'd broken his heart because Harry Potter had a major impact on his worldview and on his growing up, and she was destroying that worldview. What is wrong with you? I mean, I used to read the Beano. I've read about Excalibur and the Knights of the Round Table. I've read about all kinds of things. It doesn't contain my worldview. They're small fictions. It's not Ulysses or the Odyssey or even the Iliad. It's not that. It's a love story, a lovely story, Potter, but a worldview. If Rowling is now causing him to look at the world differently, she's done another rather interesting job. And he should thank her. Long ago, I did a commercial, I remember, in Atlanta. It was what they call an industrial, so it was in-house marketing. And at lunch break, I think must have been 2007. I think it was, because the discussion was about universal health care. So the crew who worked out I was English, at lunch, they third degreed me about the national health care. And I told them my experience of it, which had all been when I was in my healthy youth. But I was aware of its impact on the rest of society around me. And I said, it's stunning. It's an extraordinary achievement, and it's known to be an extraordinary achievement by the English at this moment, and they're about to lose it. For the other issue of non-individuated grown-ups walking around is that they cannot reconcile themselves with taxing the rich adequately. You taxed. Trust me. Elon Musk's yearly payout would have a significant effect on American and on a universal American healthcare. Build a hospital or six. Anyway, so I was just talking about it and saying I have to say this is subjective, but this is my experience of it. My father was a national health doctor, and so was my aunt, and so was my uncle. My mother worked within the system, and I saw the system at work, and it was marvelous. And at the end of this, last one, most of them nodded and said, "Oh, cool." But there was one young man particularly fierce, and he said, "I just don't trust the government." And I just told him, it isn't government controlled, it is controlled by physicians and their patients. It is funded by the government. He was holding on to this notion. I lost cause I knew, and I smiled. He's not individuated strong enough to change his mind. He will be him. And this is our trap. Our trap is not what it is turned out to be, which is that there's a villain. Right now we have the villain of Trump, who has many villainous qualities, and the desire to Department of Government efficiency. What do you mean efficiency? That means that you're going to fire a lot of people that you feel are not doing a useful job. Efficiency is a very toxic notion, right? I would wish for world peace. If there was world peace, you would have millions of Americans all over the world whose job is being in the military. I have nothing against them. I want them to continue to do whatever work that they do that provides them with a living, and they raise their families, and they live their lives. Efficiency means it's a call to some sort of either slavery or extermination of a surplus population, and I'd be very, very careful about all of that, But again, the unindividuated person can only conceive of a life of too much. They want too much. They want more than they actually deserve, certainly more than they earn. In terms of if there was a mathematical formula to describe what human beings earn, trust me, we would all earn within 5% of each other. Right? What we're paid, what we extract from an economic system, that is different, right? Most of the aristocracies of Europe did absolutely nothing except kill each other off whenever they could. That's the model that we're working on. We're working towards, it's not neo-feudalism, it's neo-medievalism. And even in that world, as far as we can tell from the writings and stuff like that, that community, the peasant community, was actually happier, hungrily, but happier than the Johns of Gaunt and the nasty, toxic human beings who ran those countries and who consumed incredible amounts of wealth and fought their wars. Anyway.